Hello, everyone. My name is Ina, and I'm the product marketing manager for Envision. And I'm extremely happy today to host the first live webinar for our newest tool. Okay, it looks like the people of guests is growing fast, and it's time that we start our presentation for today. I just want to welcome you and thank you all for joining today's introduction to Envision webinar. I would like to introduce today's speakers. These are Dan and Josh. Dan Monahan is the director of the AEC Strategic Business Unit here at Chaos. I am also very happy to have with us today Josh Rado, who is a solution engineer here at Chaos. So great to see you guys, and thank you for your help today.
I just want to kick off today's presentation. Josh and I put this presentation together really as an intro presentation. We're going to introduce you to the newest Chaos program, Chaos Envision, and we want to demonstrate for you really why it's the perfect complement to your Enscape and V-Ray BIM workflow. Now, when we put this presentation together, we put it together as an intro webinar. So we're going to cover a lot of ground, but we're not going to dive too deep into any particular feature. We're not going to get too technical. However, if there is anything that you would like to see here today, anything that you would like to explore further, just let me know by dropping your topic into the chat, and then we'll be more than happy to follow up during the Q&A session. Later, and Ina, maybe you could help us with this, but I also want to drop Josh and I's email address into the chat. So if any of you would like to follow up with Josh or I directly after the presentation, you can grab our email addresses from the chat, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. I want to start off talking a little bit about the ecosystem and kind of what we're doing as a company. Some of you are not familiar with the Chaos Group, so I just want to give you a quick introduction. So Chaos was founded over 25 years ago. It was originally founded as a rendering plugin for Autodesk 3ds Max. And since then, we've evolved into the largest AEC computer visualization company in the world. And what we're doing is we're offering a complete and really ever-growing ecosystem of visualization technology. We have everything from AI rendering to real-time 3D visualization and VR to photorealistic rendering and animation, and even software for cutting-edge special effects softwares used by FX artists in film and television. And our software is built on the modeling tools that you're already using and that you already love. And this is a huge advantage of the Enscape or the Chaos ecosystem compared to other rendering programs. Now, we built this ecosystem really with the goal of what we call reducing friction. We understand that there's not one single program that can do it all. And that's why we're building out this, what we call connected ecosystem of visualization tools, so that you could tap the right software for the task at hand and get your job done quickly and easily. Whether you're in pre-design and you need AI-assisted rendering, or you're developing design ideas and you need real-time 3D, or you're crafting photorealistic visualizations and cinematic animations to tell a story, right? Chaos makes it easy to tap into exactly what you need and when you need it. And as Josh will demonstrate, your data isn't locked. You can easily move scenes between these various programs, enabling smooth transitions across different design stages and even across different design teams with no loss of data. And that's a real big advantage. And this connected ecosystem is growing. It's growing through strategic partnerships. We're growing this ecosystem through mergers and acquisitions. And we're also growing this ecosystem through organic development. Enscape Impact is a great example of how we're growing this ecosystem through strategic partnerships. Impact is an early phase energy analysis module. It runs inside of Enscape. It was designed in conjunction with IES, Integrated Environmental Solutions, arguably the leading building performance simulation software company in the world. And with Impact, designers can evaluate energy consumption in the earliest phases of design where the cost of change is very low. And this is a big win for designers, it's a big win for owners, and it's really a big win for the environment. Veris is a great example of how we're growing our ecosystem through mergers and acquisitions. In February of this year, we acquired a company called Evolve Labs and their flagship AI rendering software, Veris. Veris allows you to speed up your design workflow by leveraging generative AI to quickly generate visual concepts. And unlike other AI visualization solutions like Midjourney or ChatGPT, what's nice about Veris is that it's purpose-built for buildings. So it's much easier to use, and the results can be more predictable. Now, AI rendering is a pretty hot topic these days. If you're interested in learning more about how Chaos is integrating AI into its rendering pipeline, please let me know by dropping a note in the chat. And this is a subject that we can talk more about in future webinars or even one-on-one in a lunch and learn situation. And then lastly, Envision. Envision is a great example of how we're building out this connected ecosystem organically. Released last month and with a fresh update today, Envision is our first standalone real-time 3D rendering software, and it provides an easy way for designers to go beyond rendering to really turn their designs into compelling cinematic presentations. So why Envision? Why did we create a new standalone rendering program? Well, traditionally, Chaos rendering programs, they've all been what we call plug-in rendering programs. They're not separate rendering applications. And being a rendering program offers some tremendous benefits and advantages. First, unlike traditional rendering software that require you to manually import models or sync files, Enscape and V-Ray integrate directly into your modeling software. In fact, a good way to think about Enscape and V-Ray is really as a live viewport into your BIM model, not as a separate rendering program. Changes that you make to your design model, they're immediately visible in either real time, as in the case of Enscape, or in the frame buffer, as in the case with V-Ray. And with a plug-in rendering program, there's only one model, only one single source of truth. So your design and your visualizations are coming from the same source data, so they're always in sync. Also, as a plugin, they integrate into the interfaces of your favorite modeling program. So there's almost no learning curve. In fact, if you know how to add a light, save a view, or add a material in your BIM program, you pretty much already know the fundamentals of Enscape and V-Ray. So the ramp up is very quick and it's very easy. However, as plugin renderers, there are some limitations. As a plugin, we can only view and render what's inside the BIM model. You can't aggregate models or compose scenes from models coming in from different softwares. For example, you can't aggregate in V-Ray or in Enscape a landscape model coming in from SketchUp with a building model coming in from Revit and some architectural ornamentation maybe coming in from 3ds Max or Rhino. V-Ray and Enscape are purpose-built to view only the data that's in that host application. Also, as a plugin, we rely on the features and the capabilities of the host application. So if your modeling software doesn't support a particular capability, for example, SketchUp doesn't support object animation, then as a plugin, we're a bit stuck. There's nothing for us to hook into. There's nothing for us to develop on top of, which can be a barrier. And as a plugin, we're sharing system resources with the host application. And this can be a little limiting, especially for large, complex scenes that require heavy processing and a lot of RAM. So Envision was designed to overcome these plugin limitations like these, to extend your Enscape and V-Ray workflows, giving you the flexibility to do more, but without losing the ease of use that you're used to. More specifically, this idea of doing more results in some key benefits. First, Envision is purpose-built to handle some very large and complex scenes. We have test scenes that are composed of literally trillions of polygons that you can navigate these models in real time with virtually no loss of image quality. And as a standalone rendering program, we're not sharing the system resources, so we're able to leverage 100% of your computer's power. Another advantage of Envision is that you're working in a 100% real-time ray-traced environment. This means that you're getting almost V-Ray-like quality in real time all the time. You're not flipping between low quality and high quality rendering settings like you do in other programs. You're working in 100% real-time ray-traced environment. Envision also ships with the Cosmos asset library, the same asset library that ships with V-Ray. So you could tap over 6,000 high-quality 3D assets and materials to kind of build out your scene. And you'll also find some really nice post-processing features, eliminating much of the image editing work that you might normally do in tools like Photoshop, which is a really nice time saver. A key benefit of Envision is animation, and you can animate individual objects in a scene. So think like a window opening or closing, or even animating individual building elements to show construction sequencing. And Josh will demonstrate this in a little bit more detail. So creating animations is a key benefit of Envision, and you can tap a growing library of animated assets. You can think about moving people, pedestrians, crowds, and traffic. Josh will talk a little bit and show that. And then these clips and animations can all be put together in a really incredible video editor. We can compile these clips and we can add preset transitions between the clips and even add sound to create truly cinematic experiences and presentations. And part of that animation capability is a new feature called variations. Variations is a really nice feature and allows you to show off variations or design options without having to duplicate models. Josh will show this live, but what you can do is you can show off design options either as part of an animated sequence or just flipping through design options live with your clients to get their buy-in. And lastly, Envision allows you to compose scenes by aggregating different models from different sources. You can import scenes from Enscape and V-Ray, really allowing you to bring in models from 10 of the world's most popular modeling programs. You can also import models and assets in popular 3D file formats like OBJ, FBX, and DAE, and this gives you compatibility with softwares like Autodesk Civil 3D, SolidWorks, or even ArcGIS, and this opens up a lot of different possibilities. And if you're not using a Chaos product, you can still use Envision. You can link Revit, SketchUp, and Rhino models directly into Envision without having to use Enscape or V-Ray. And when linking models into Envision, if there's a design change, Envision can automatically sync those updates, ensuring that your visualization stays current and consistent with the source model. Now, something that's very important to note is that when we're syncing scenes from a Chaos product to Envision, everything in that scene is coming across one-to-one. Cameras, lights, materials, rendering settings, they all come into Envision. You get what we call an uninterrupted workflow, where you can easily move scenes from Enscape and V-Ray right into Envision with no loss of data. And we put together a quick example to show you what this looks like. So very simply, this is my scene in Enscape. I can now move this scene into Envision, and everything comes across, and I'm ready to start working. And this is a big advantage, as here's what that same scene, Enscape scene, would look like in another real-time rendering program, in this case, Twinmotion. So by swapping out Twinmotion, D5, or Lumion in your workflow with Envision, what we can create is a really smooth and uninterrupted workflow with no missing pieces. And I could do this actually for less money, which I'll talk about at the end of the presentation. Okay, with that short introduction, I'd like to turn the webinar over to Josh and have him demonstrate some of these key features and benefits that Envision offers. Now, this is a live demo. I want you to be aware that Josh's screen, if it looks a little choppy, this is probably a Zoom frame rate issue. Your experience may vary based on your internet connection, but be assured that what Josh is showing is very smooth. And we'll also be recording this demonstration so that we can share this recording with you after today's webinar. All right, Josh?
All right. Yeah, thanks, Dan. You see my screen okay, right? Can you see my screen okay? Ina, can you see my screen? Ethan says yes, he can see my screen.
Yes.
Yep. All right, cool. Okay. I would just like to make sure. All right. So like Dan was talking about, we can use Envision to do scene assembly. So right here we have a scene composed of multiple different models ranging from, say, 3ds Max, SketchUp, Revit, Rhino. Train system was designed in Rhino. We'll see a pavilion I'll import, but this is very powerful to where we can navigate the scene already. And again, here's a simple 3ds Max scene that we imported because we want to do a nice little shot. But notice what we're getting right away is 100% ray tracing, like Dan was talking about. So you're going to see accurate reflections, materials, things like that, all with inside of Envision in real time here. And again, this scene was already developed in 3ds Max, and we're going to bring it in. So I'm going to show how we can quickly bring in a Revit file and how all that information comes across. So all we're going to do is go File, Import, and I'm going to go down to my building. Again, this was built inside of Revit, so I just went inside of Enscape and exported a VR scene file out of there. Notice these little yellow light indicators. This is showing me all the lights that came across from Revit. So like Dan was talking about, all that geometry comes across, materials, and all that information, as well as the lights come in too. Now I'm going to import a pavilion that we designed in Rhino and Grasshopper, because we got these really nice curves on some benches. So here we go. That's just loading up here. But notice too, just being able to navigate the scene with all of these different models inside of one scene. So again, these are all Enscape assets. So Enscape assets come across, the geometry comes across already. All of this, again, comes inside of Envision, like Dan was talking about, this uninterrupted workflow. And now what's really cool is I can click on the lights as well, specifically, and this model had IES lights set up in there. So all those come across as well. Now, I'm just going to hide my light indicators quick so I can get a better preview. One thing I always like to show with Envision is anything that is selectable inside of Envision is animatable, which we'll get into in a second. But we can see here all the categories as well come across, this case Revit. So casework, ceilings, floors, railings, walls, things like that. All of that comes across into Envision. Now I just selected the curtain panels, and now this is really cool because, again, anything that is selectable inside of Envision is editable. So object level manipulation here is what we can get into. Again, I'll get into, now you can see just this simple idea right here. I'll show how we can animate that later, so you can do some really nice phasing effects as well. But again, anything that is selectable inside of Envision can be animated and tied to a variation, which we'll get into in a second. Oop, let me hide my floating meeting controls here. Okay, now with all this in here, what are some of the benefits that we can do? We can take advantage of materials. Or first, let's say all of these, we got our scene all with inside of here, but what happens if we need to make a change to the model? Well, what we can do is, let's say we made a change to our building and we wanted to show what the model looked like with a different facade up on top here. This is where, if you go into the version path, I can click version path and I can load in that new change that I did. And this is where I can swap out different versions of the model. So this is where I can always show the different versions of what these changes are going to be without any interruption to my Envision scene. So now this is where it becomes extremely powerful to work. You're making changes inside of any design application that we support. Resave out that file. You'll get the new timestamp so you can see what the date is, and then you just load that in with the version path. And this is where, again, you can flip between the different versions, so you can really show your clients exactly what you want them to see, and they can see which designs are more beneficial for them. So now, again, what's some other cool things that we can do? Let's say we want to further enhance the materials or things like that. If we want to show different changes, Enscape ships, or Envision ships with the Cosmos library. So this is where, like Dan said, we get access to over 6,000 pre-built assets to choose from. So let's focus on assets real quick. This is where I can start populating my scene with, say, a forest. I want trees to be populated inside of my park here. What I can do is I can go to vegetation. James, I saw that you were asking about vegetation. So vegetation is a big thing in Cosmos. So we have a lot of different types of trees, species names, things like that, all within inside of here. But also you can import models from various 3D modeling sites like Turbo Squid, CG Trader, things like that, using FBX OBJ import. Here, let me hide my meeting controls here. So I can just click on any one of these, click and drag them, or I can utilize the power of presets as well. So I can choose different surfaces and just click and drag these onto my surfaces. I have a preset up one that I like to use a lot. So I'm simply just going to click and drag. And what that's going to do is populate my scene quickly with some trees with the forest using the power of Chaos Scatter. And again, I can just simply click and drag, and we can see how fast I can start generating a forest for me here. And now I can go further edit any of these as well, but we can see right away. Here, let me just even zoom in so we can see the level of quality that we're getting. Again, this is all in real time for us here. We can see all of this as well. And utilizing the power of Chaos Scatter, I can go further edit anything about that. Again, we're not getting super deep into this, so I can add more models to this as well. I can do detect collisions. Again, we can get into this at a later date. I can set targets and exclusion areas, things like that. But this is where you can really dial in how you want your scatter to look as well. And we can see how fast that was. We can also draw out paths as well and add models to that. So I can simply click my spline, and I'm simply just going to add some trees as well to that. Now I'm going to go to my Chaos Scatter tool, and I'm simply going to select that spline. I'm going to click Done. And now I'm going to go to Cosmos, and I'm going to pick some assets that I want to add in there. So let's say we want some trees. So again, we have a very large library of trees. We also have some variations as well in those trees. So all I'm going to do is simply click and drag my tree onto that, and it's going to generate the scatter for me. So we can see it just scattered it over that line. So really quick to be able to generate a vast library of trees as well. And in addition to this, we have the material library as well. So this is very powerful. So you can add in higher quality materials to anything inside the scene. So let's say we want to change the material of this part right here. All I have to do is simply click and drag a material I want onto that object. And we can see that being changed there. Also, if I just need to further edit materials inside of Envision, all I have to do is take my material selector, click the material I want, and it's going to pull up the material properties that came across from Enscape. Now this becomes very powerful because I can sit here and utilize enhancements as well. So we can do coat and varnish, we can do cutouts, foliage, self-illuminating, actual displacement. So this is where when you're looking at edges, it'll show you the actual displacement. Strands and round. My favorite is rounded corners. So let's say we want to pick on an object. Well, here, let me show you that with an Enscape material just to further prove it. There we go. I can select that material and I can simply hit rounded corners. This was a much requested feature that I really, really like. Let's just dial that down. There we go. But we can see we're getting rounded corners here on my model. And again, I can do convex, concave, things like that. I can dial that up as much as I need to. And again, not getting super into the weeds with materials, but I can also utilize the mix and match feature, which is, in my opinion, extremely powerful. We can utilize mixed materials here. So I can pick different materials and I can start blending between the two. This will be really cool when we get into variations as well. So here I can pick a metal material. So here we go. Let's see. Again, just scrolling through real quick, we get a massive library of materials. Here, let's go. I'll just pick a quick material here. Let's do an iron material. I can just click and drag that material onto that. Now, any object that has that metal material on it will start showing that, and I can blend between the two as well. Again, this will be really cool for when we get into variations. Also, one other thing I really like to mention is models that are coming from programs that don't do UV mapping. This is where we can utilize triplanar mapping. So for those that don't know what triplanar mapping is, this is where it's going to align the textures on the X, Y, and Z axis. So it's going to make them more seamless across when they're going around corners and things like that. So that's really helpful for, again, the programs that don't do don't do UV mapping. So now that our scene is looking pretty good, let's go to probably a really cool feature that everybody's anticipating is animation. So Envision ships with the ability to utilize the anima library of animated people. So let's first start adding some people here. So let's get some people walking on our street here. So all I have to do is simply click the anima crowd, and I'm just going to draw out a simple spline that I want. I'm just going to simply click and drag where I want these people to walk, and click done. Now what I can do is I'm going to get the Animo Details crowd here. So if I go to the crowd and I go back to my 3D models, and we're going to go to people, and I'm going to simply click like my little filter button, and I'm going to click animated people. So I'm going to click all. So all these people are animated here. So I can simply click and drag, just like I was doing with the Chaos Scatter, click and drag them onto my section here, and I can increase the actor count to what I want. If I already have models downloaded, I can simply just click generate. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull all my pre-downloaded ones. And what it's going to do is it's going to add that to my spline. There we go. So now we can see I'm going to get some people walking around. And now what I think is extremely cool is notice the side tendency. So this is really cool. So when people actually walk up to each other, they're actually going to kind of do like they're going to move out of the way. So we can preview this by going into full screen mode. Now, this is one thing I want to highlight as well is, again, we're in a fully ray trace environment, and we can do scene exploration in a full ray trace environment with animation playing. So I can walk around and explore my scene while my animations are being played. I can't really do that in any other program. So this is a really cool way to be able to, again, preview what our animations are looking like. And we can see, again, there they do a little sidestep. We did have a fun feature request that if they could make it region specific. So I'm up in Minnesota, so Minnesota nice versus different parts of the world where people might not sidestep out of the way. So that's the animation capabilities. You can also click on the individual actors and control their speed as well. So if you want people running, you can just increase their speed. Some of them have variations as well for different articles of clothing. So we can see, again, here's the options again. We can get in later to this. We're just doing a quick introduction. But now for vehicles. So now this is a really cool one that just came out with version 1.1, actually today. So this is where we're going to utilize the animatraffic simulation here. So let's draw out a quick path for us here. So I'm going to go to the animatraffic simulation, and I'm just going to click once, and then I'm going to drag down to where I want to go next. And I'm going to click done. And same thing. I'm going to go to my Cosmos library, and I'm going to go to 3D models, vehicles. I already have animated selected, and we can see all of our animated vehicles for us here. So again, same thing. I can click and drag onto my model, or since I already have some pre-downloaded for sake of time, I'm just going to simply click generate, and that's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to start putting them on our path for us here. And what's really cool about these is they have collision detection built into them. So when it comes up to a person, it's going to stop and let the person come by as well. So that's a really cool, really cool thing. Or when, like we'll see here in a second, I'll draw a path so I can have the cars driving in and merging in. So vehicles will actually stop as well. And then it'll let the other cars go by. And notice too, we have the option for lane width, road limit. One really cool thing I like is see how it's in meters per second. I can change that to miles per hour for the Americans on the call. So I really like that feature. I often have to do the conversion a lot, and there we can set the vehicle count too, so I can change it 5, 10, however many I want. So here we can preview what this is looking like. So we can see vehicles are going, and then once it's going to slow down for us here. There we go. So now it's slowed down for people. I can play this a little bit longer by going to my timeline. Right now, this is just playing for 10 seconds. Let me say for 20 seconds. There we go. And I'm just going to click full screen mode again so we can preview what that's going to look like for us. So again, they're slowing down. They're letting people go by. And the suspension is built in too. So when vehicles stop, they'll actually shift a little bit too. And we can see there's a little bump in the road. So that's where where the vehicles are actually, going over the terrain as well. And we can see we get the options for the road rules, direction modes, road priority, road condition. Let me just draw out another path here quick. Again, yeah, Zoom is pretty choppy. Yep, it's being recorded, so we can share it with you afterwards. And again, here's the traffic. So again, I will just draw out another path as well, so we can see those vehicles merging. And simply click generate again. So that's going to regenerate that for us as well, so we can see the vehicles turning into that as well. And then after this, once this is loaded, we'll preview that, and then we'll get into the next animation capabilities as well. Actually, it looks like we're coming up on time, so let me just cancel that quick. But yeah, so vehicles would turn in and then merge in, and then they would stop and wait for the other vehicles as well. So internet's being a little slow, so apologize about that, guys. So for the next option, which is a new one for Envision 1.1, is what we call our proximity sensors. So this is where this is going to give me the ability to have objects do something. So this is where we're going to have slide, rotate, and scale. So let me go over here, and we have a door. So I'm going to simply click my door. I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit for me here. And I'm going to draw out a camera path for us here. So using the same Anima crowd, I'm going to click and drag just real quick, just to show this. Perfect. I'm going to hit generate. That's going to generate some people for me. All right, there we go. And I'm just going to quickly move my door back. And now with my door selected, I'm going to go up to the slide sensor here. Now this put a proximity sensor around my object. And under the activators tab, this is telling me what I want to activate that motion. I just want characters to activate that. And I want my slide distance. So I want this door to shift over about 1.5 meters. The activation zone is set to 2.2 meters. I'm going to set that to about 1.5 meters. So when a character gets within 1.5 meters of this door, it's going to play that animation. And I'm going to play the animation here. I only want it to play once, and I want the speed to be 1 second. Now again, I can hit preview. So since this character got within 1 meter, now that door is closing again. This character got within 1 meter of it, that door is going to open. So now both of these characters are within 1 meter. That animation is holding because characters are within that sensor region. So again, this is just a quick overview. We have rotate and scale as well, but these two new features just came on 1.1 as of today. So extremely cool. I'm very excited about these. Okay, I know we're getting close on time. So now let's say we want to send our designs to our clients. How do we do that? So let's go create a camera, and we'll talk about some of the cool things that you can do with these, with the cameras here. So I'm going to simply create a new camera. So here's my one camera, and I have a lot of different color correction settings and different settings that I can do. So really cool for customers coming from Enscape. I can do view angle in degrees, or I can actually dial it in by millimeters. So this is where, if you're a photographer and you're used to shooting architecture photography, you can do different millimeter of camera. So really cool to be able to do that. Depth of field settings as well. You can pick the object that you want to focus in on. And then under the color corrections tab, this is a very powerful feature. So this is where you can use cinematic film quality tone mapping. So for those that are familiar with camera raw and things like that, and more photography editing styles, this is where you can do filmic tone mapping. You can also add in LUT files as well. So this is where you can select different files from, say, Photoshop, or download it from various websites. You can dial all these in here, so you can really start to get a nice cinematic quality effect. And you can copy all these settings to different cameras as well. And then so there's my one camera. I'm going to add in another camera so we can start talking about the variations here. So here, let's get a nice shot here. And I'm going to call this facade. So now this is where we can get into the environment tab So weather effects, I have the cloud sun system from Enscape as well, so I can change the density, variety, longitude, latitude. I can even adjust the altitude. Very cool feature. And then azimuth, altitude, or I can also set the geolocation as well. So I can, if you have the exact coordinate system, you can dial that in inside of here. Again, just simply changing the time of day all inside of here. Or I can utilize HDR files. So I can use the same HDR file from Enscape, or I can also utilize the ones coming from Cosmos as well, or where I have third-party websites downloaded. There we go. I can also utilize the wind features, so same as Enscape, the trees are moving the wind. I can enable haze as well. So extremely powerful feature to get that final look. But now let's talk about the variations quick. So under variations, this is where, let's say I want to do a material change to show my clients, here's what the facade looks like in one color versus another color. But again, this is just a quick variation. So we're going to choose one variation. So I'm going to say, metal. I'm going to say red. Now let's just go move closer here so we can see. Here's our facade. So there's the metal. Now for the red material, I'm going to go back to, again, remember how we did the mix and match? So this is where I'm going to turn that back to red. And notice I get the save button. So now I can click save. So my metal material is there. And then I have the original red material. Now this is where I can go and animate between those. And it's going to give me a nice transition between those as well. So here, let's get a nice shot right here. So I'm going to go to my timeline. And again, this is very quick. We can definitely get into this later at another time. So I just added my camera to the timeline, and I'm going to go to my variations. I'm going to start with metal. I'm going to drag that to my variation, and I can just drag these between the two. And now it's going to transition between metal, and it's transitioning to, it's doing a 3-second transition, and it's going to transition to red. So this is just quick one example of that. Now, and again, with that, that part where I moved all the objects up and moved them down, same concept. I create a variation for where I want everything to be, and then another variation for everything on top. And then from there, everything, and then just drag these to the timeline, and I can position these. Animating the camera is extremely easy as well. So let's say we want to start right here. I'm going to go to the end of the clip, or go to the end of the clip, and I'm simply just going to move my camera up a little bit. And now we can see it's transitioning between the two. Also, if I right click the transition, this is where I can do different transition effects, ease in, ease out. Ordering, this is where we can do, this gets more into the phasing effect. So I can do a radial spiral. So things are falling in a radial fashion, a spiral. I can drop them in by names. Again, I have a lot of different controls in here. Don't have time to get into this today, but definitely we'll do this at another time. And now, if we're ready to export these quick, also we can do environment variation. So you can change the time of day, things like that, have all that being animated. This is where we get into our next feature of our render queue. So another new feature that just came out today. I'm going to simply click the plus button, and we can see I have all my cameras that I have inside of my left-hand panel here. So I can take everything that's in the timeline, and then I can take individual camera settings as well. Or I can take individual cameras and I can add those to my queue. Now here's where I can set the different output properties as well for my animation. So I can set frames per second, quality, and I can set the different variations as well inside of here as well. And then under still images, I get the options for, again, this is where Dan will get into this, but where we can do export these to cloud collaboration and the Chaos AI enhancer. And again, we can set the resolution. We get a lot of different render elements as well to further export these if we need to do further post-processing. And I can apply all these to current settings as well, to different views, copy them, save them, things like that. All right, Dan. I know I ran a little bit longer. There was just so much stuff I wanted to show.
Sure, that's fine. No, good job. So I'll share my screen. You guys can see all that now? So
here, let me stop sharing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nina, can you see it? My screen?
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. It's okay.
So thanks, Josh. I really appreciate that. So that was just a quick introduction to Envision, and hopefully what we could show off is that really, if you think about Envision and where it fits into this ecosystem, it's as a standalone program, it's just a real natural extension of the Enscape of the V-Ray BIM workflows, and then it really provides this kind of seamless project for those projects, a seamless pipeline for those projects that require more. Some things that one thing that Josh didn't really highlight is he kind of talked a little bit about, we're talking about the batch import, batch render, and some of the other export options, but we're integrating the Enscape enhancer into Envision. So this is actually a screenshot from Enscape, but using the AI enhancer, we can add a higher level of details to assets and to people. There's some really nice improvements coming to the enhancer, and then the enhancer will be coming to all Chaos products in H2 later this year. Josh also talked about the cloud, so I just wanted to take a moment and just share with you a little bit about what's going on with cloud. This is a free resource. A lot of people don't know about the cloud. If you have your phone, I would encourage you to take a picture of this QR code. I'm going to leave this up for just a second. And then I'll get into the cloud rendering website. So while that's loading, I'll go to the cloud page.
Yeah, I really like that the ability to share the QR codes with clients. While Dan's getting that loaded up, I was taking my daughter to her basketball game the other day, or fast pitch game the other day, and we were driving by a new build going up, and there's a banner outside of this new build that had a QR code, and it took us to a 360 panorama of what one of the rooms could look like in this building. So really cool.
The Chaos Cloud is going to become a more important to all Chaos workflows moving forward, and we're adding a lot more technology into the Chaos Cloud. If you just go to Enscape.com cloud today, you can see that we're going to do these interactive tours. I'll show that. That's what the QR code is for those of you who have your phone. For those that you don't, I'll get into that. There's also a nice collaboration environment. Obviously, cloud rendering, which is a feature that we've had for a number of years. It's very important to the offline rendering programs in the portfolio. And then one that's coming is cloud streaming, the ability to stream a scene to any mobile device over the internet. And that's one to keep an eye on, and we'll share that more information later this season. It's actually going to be, we'll have some announcements in the fall. So this is the Chaos Cloud environment. This is my personal Chaos Cloud account. And if I go with files, share with me, this is the virtual tour that the other people are seeing from the QR code in the phone. So this is a model that we uploaded. This model was actually generated in V-Ray, but it can be modeled in any Chaos application. And then we can send this up to the Chaos Cloud to create these really kind of interesting tours. You have these informational hotspots, so we can look and hover over an informational marker. Here we can then see some information about that particular object in the scene. In this case, we're looking at the kitchen countertops. We can actually then cycle through different variations or options, which is kind of neat. Here, for example, if we wanted to find out some information, more information about the flooring, we can do that as well. Another nice part about the Pano tours is that you can also experience them on your desktop, but you can also experience them in VR, which is a nice improvement.
And Dan, inside those markers, you can also link to product pages as well. So that's another really cool option.
We talked about the variations in Envision. There's a really nice variations functionality in Chaos Cloud as well. So in this case, I have uploaded a few different variations of this kitchen backsplash. And then using the compare versions feature, I can now look at these options side by side, either in this kind of A-B comparison or in a side-by-side view. What's kind of interesting about the side-by-side view is we can also link the panes together so that if I zoom in or if I pan, then those views are synced. So this is a really nice way to present in a collaborative environment different design ideas and different options. And then there's a markup tool environment here where if we wanted to mark something up, there's some simple kind of drawing tools that we could use. And then you can also leave comments that can be picked up later. So if you're not already using the cloud, it's something that I would encourage you to check out. It's a really nice resource and it's free. But
sorry, I was going to say you can also set viewer permissions as well. So you can also you can control who's viewing it, who has what permission to leave comments, things like that, and edit rights as well.
So that comes with every Chaos account. So with Envision, or if you're an existing Chaos customer, I'd really encourage you to kind of check out some of the new cloud features. Now, before we open up Q&A, there were some questions about learning. So I just wanted to share with you some learning resources to get you up and running in Envision very quickly. First is under the homepage, you'll find the learning link, and this you'll find a learning link to our new Chaos Academy. So this is where we're going to be storing on-demand learning videos, and it will help you to grow your Envision skills as well as to keep up to date with the latest Envision feature sets that are coming out. If you're not already subscribed, I'd really encourage you to join the forums. They're a great resource for unbiased recommendations, for workflow tips and expert advice. It's really kind of a great go-to place for peer-to-peer support. So if you're not signed into the forum, I would encourage you to do so. And then be sure to check on keep an eye out on your inbox. There's a lot of new events that are coming. We'll have some new webinars, 2 quick Envision events that I just want to quickly point out. And one is a Facebook Chaos Campus event. This is going to be happening on July 29th. We'd like to invite you to this event. Phil Reed, the CEO of Reed Thomas, will be there. Ludo Machado, he's the FX director from Corrigan's Media Lab. He will also be there, and we'll be talking with some of the developers about Envision. And then as part of our Enscape Deep Dive series on September 9th, we'll be hosting an Envision webinar as part of that series. And then Ina, if I could ask you, could you please drop links to both of these events in the chat, and then people can grab those links?
Sure, already there.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Now, for those of you who have never used Envision and would like to try it, the new version, as Josh said, the new version just dropped today. So even if you've tried an old version or the beta version, I would encourage you to go to the website. You can download a free 30-day trial, and then we'll be here to help you get up and running with free tech support in addition to the learning resources that I mentioned. If you would like to move forward with the purchase, Envision does come in both a named license model as well as a network floating license. And you can find out more about the pricing and get local pricing from our website. One thing I did want to mention that if you're an Enscape customer, you can get Envision as part of our new architectural design collection for as little as $60 for a named user license, or about $140 for a floating network license. So it's very inexpensive to add it if you're already an existing Enscape customer. If you're a V-Ray customer, I have some special offers that will make it very easy for you to add Envision to your V-Ray workflow. And if you're interested in learning more, again, just in the Q&A section, just drop in a note and Josh and I will follow up. All right, so with that, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar was live. A recording will be sent out. I hope that you found the information valuable and that you're leaving today really with some new insights and some actionable takeaways. I think that's important.